people don't like to see foreign powers attacking them, even if they, in principle, would like the idea of support for the protest movement.
It's extremely difficult to get reliable information from inside Iran. Foreign journalists are banned, the internet has been cut for 4 days, and the level of repression against the protests has left many too scared to share their views. But as we've heard on this programme, there are networks to get information out, and it seems clear that many hundreds and possibly thousands have been killed as security forces crack down on the protesters. President Donald Trump has threatened to strike Iran over the killing of protesters, and Iran has warned it will retaliate if attacked by the US. How is this all likely to play out in the coming days? If the protests succeed in toppling Ayatollah Khomeini, what then? And for a country trying to make a viable nuclear weapon still, how should we respond? Professor Chuck Freilich is a former Israeli Deputy National Security Advisor and now Professor at Tel Aviv and Columbia Universities. Joins us now. Chuck, morning to you.
Good morning.
How likely do you think the fall of the Ayatollah is at this moment?
Well, I think, unfortunately, it's premature to speak about that at this point. We're talking a heinous regime, and the sooner it collapses, I think the better for Iran, the region, and the world. But we've seen repeated rounds of demonstrations over the years. I'm not sure that this time the numbers are bigger than in the past. And most importantly, the regime still has a monopoly over force in the country, the instruments of force, the besieged, the militia, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, the military, all seem to still be fully behind the regime until we see cracks there, until we see broader elements of the Iranian public, Iranian society, maybe first and foremost, workers in the oil and shipping industry, which is critical to the economy, and others. I think it's still too early to predict the fall.
And what could I mentioned Donald Trump as a catalyst, because I think he's become, because of how he behaves and how he talks, quite a significant, or a very significant geopolitical catalyst. Things change around Donald Trump because he says and does things. But what could be the catalyst that takes it from protests that are being brutally suppressed to something that significantly then challenges the authority of the Ayatollah?
Well, as I was saying, we need broader parts of Iran's overall society, and in some critical areas. As I was saying, the people in the oil and shipping industry, because they are absolutely critical to the economy. We need broader numbers, and we need something which is badly missing, which is some sort of leader that most of the opposition can coalesce around. For the moment, the only person claiming leadership is the son of the former Shah. He does have support from a small part of the public, but only a small part. In the 2009 protests, for example, which were considered the most severe that the regime had faced, at least until that time, there were two major opposition leaders who were heading the thing. And they've now been in house arrest ever since. There's no one who can play that role, or is at least so far playing that role today.
What more could America and Israel do? I mean, we've heard on this program that Mossad and the CIA are involved in the streets in some nebulous fashion. What intervention could take place from America or Israel, say, that could make the protests stronger, that could lead to it spreading further across other parts of society?
Well, I don't know what the CIA is doing. I don't know what the Mossad is doing, but I think there are always conspiratorial claims such as that. I think the best thing that Israel could do is to stay out of it, and that is the approach that the Prime Minister has been taking. In the U.S., it's different this time, because in the past, the common wisdom was that any American involvement and even significant public support for protesters might be counterproductive. It would brand them as lackeys of foreign power. This time, that doesn't seem to be the case. There's greater willingness on the part of the Iranian public to accept at least some degree of American involvement. Now, I think there's a big difference between moral support for the protest movement, which would be appropriate this time, there's a difference between maybe even providing Starlinks to the protest movement, other forms of indirect assistance. That's one level. That I think the U.S. Should certainly be doing. But then if you look, what are the other possibilities? Well, they can try to launch a cyber information campaign. That might also be helpful, especially since the regime is conducting its own. Beyond that, starting to talk about military action, that becomes more difficult, more problematic, because at least for part of the public, people don't like to see foreign powers attacking them, even if they, in principle, would like the idea of support for the protest movement. If it goes that way, maybe the appropriate thing to do would be just to limit it to regime targets, such as the besieged headquarters in various towns and cities, Revolutionary Guards.
Could the Americans? Is it plausible? I mean, I asked this in the 2 weeks after they've arrested Maduro in Venezuela. Could they take out Khomeini? The Americans, is that a possibility in any form or concept?
I mean, is it a possibility? I imagine. I don't know what the probability of it happening is. If it was a possibility before Maduro, then of course the Iranians have learned from that and have taken precautions. And I imagine that the supreme leader is well guarded at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's as you say, we're some distance away from. It feels like the critical moment that something is building.